Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, I have prepared some poetry for this afternoon, but I'd also like to share just a small quote before I start. Pay attention to life, because at any moment you could not exist anymore. I had an accident on the way coming here, and my car is, I don't know what they call it, totaled? Yeah. And I'm healthy, and the driver was with his daughter, and they're fine. But my airbags didn't even come out, which is kind of a scary thought. But I'm still here, and by the grace and mercy of God. So I'm very thankful to be here, and I thank the Ahl Bayt Center for allowing me to speak here today, even though I probably will never feel like I'm qualified, but maybe I have some experience, who knows. Yes, so I'm a poet, and I didn't know that they were going to read that bio out loud. Usually it's saved for poetry presentations where I don't mind being bragged about, but here I'm amongst a lot of beautiful and humble people, and next time I'll send a one-line bio to introduce me. So I have a bunch of poems I'd like to recite. One of the recommendations and the suggestions were to recite a poem based on modesty, and I came up with this. And then I'll do some other fun stuff, some other different poetry types. So, this poem, there's a theory called bad faith. Anybody heard of this theory? It's a French philosophy where you are a part of a society that has pressured you into not practicing your faith anymore, because the society's demands are so strong that you decide to give up your faith, what you believe in. Consciously, you say, you know what? It's almost like if you can't beat them, join them type of idea, right? And I was turned on to it by a friend of mine who asked me to write something about this theory of bad faith. There's a French term for it, but I guess that's not right to say here in Montreal. I don't speak French, but it's a really interesting philosophy. So I came up with this idea of why people turn away from faith, right? And it's kind of expressed in this poem about modesty. So. It is in the heart where freedom is learned, but it is in the mind where fear is born. So we are all child soldiers, spitting ill rhymes in ill times, loaded by our thoughts but strapped at our feet. From the insanity of society, we consciously choose defeat over the elite idea of blind victory. And these bullets that grind between our teeth leave a horrid taste. And after the land is laid waste, because the haste of man has slain God's plans, nothing else remains but to proclaim bad faith. But wait, is it blind faith? Just a metaphor for the eyes that act as windows to our souls. We create our reality through what we project with our thoughts, words, and actions. So how do we define divine satisfaction? Moreover, how do we define ourselves in a society where everyone expects an unjust reaction? Is it through allowing our desires to run rampant? Do we keep all the locks on the doors of our souls wide open? Do we crumble beneath the rubble after the war with the self begins as a teenager? Do we become a slave to the demon giving to us from birth? Or do we allow angels to sing the blessings we collect through the worship of God? How do we find our identity in this wayward society if we are to adhere to the laws of the land? When the laws of the land are really just the instincts of the lawless man, they say the truth can only be found if one is searching. But since we as Muslims understand the truth, acknowledge the truth, submit to the truth, all we need to do is follow suit. Not just in our deeds, but as role models too. Because when we dress in our suits and look like models, we should try to be an example of modesty. Leaning towards chastity is the best honesty. Not allowing ourselves to expose what is meant for your own privacy. Because if we dress like them, speak like them, walk like them, eat like them, how can they learn the difference between fantasy and the ultimate reality? We have, as Muslims in the West, the best opportunity to demonstrate to the people of other faiths how beautiful Islam can be. So please, before you allow yourself to fall victim of vanity and the destruction of your God-given creativity, yes, give charity, pray regularly. But remember, bad faith comes from blind faith. And for those who are led astray, how do we expect them to see the beauty of what Islam can be? Try to stay within the ways of dressing appropriately, because modesty is one of the best gates towards attaining higher morality. That's bad faith. Thank you. So, I have another poem that I never really recite too often. Why? The poetry circles and the poetry circuits that I frequent, they're not too fond of Islamic poetry, I don't think. I do write a fair amount. All my poetry somehow relates to Islam, subtly, you know, but I have poems that are definitely, you know, from the bat, you know it's Islam that I'm speaking about. This next poem I'd like to recite, and I just think this is an important poem to recite today because Salah is one of the best ways to obtain the esoteric definition of modesty, of hijab, for men and for women, right? We obviously know that there's the physical hijab and then there's the metaphysical hijab, the non-apparent hijab, the one that clothes your soul, right? And praying to your Lord, bowing in submission, is one of the best ways to attain that modesty, because you're humbling yourself to something that which is greater. So this poem is called The Salah. Have you been fortunate enough to observe a martial arts who performs a kata, or a Muslim worshipping through salah? They are quite similar in many ways. The kata contains two entities, the martial artist and the sensei. The salah also contains two entities, the slave and the master of the masters. The student performs the kata whilst being observed and judged by the sensei. The salah is performed by the slave whilst being observed and judged by the omnipresent. You see, there exists movements during the performance of a kata that a student must complete in order to be given new privileges. Mystical movements and utterances are also protocols that must be performed by the slave in order to be given barakah, blessings. The kata contains a bow to signify respect for the sensei. The salah contains a bow to signify reverence for the Lord of the worlds. The kata contains a prostration as a token of humility for the sensei. The salah contains a prostration elucidating submission to the Most High. By performing the kata methodically, the student comes closer to the sensei in skill, and the sensei admires his student. By performing the salah, the slave travels closer to the Most High in morals, and he who is the most admired admires his slave. If the kata is completed successfully, the sensei allots the student to a higher rank and will introduce him to hidden martial arts knowledge. The slave who completes the prayer successfully is brought closer to God, who opens the door to his infinite wisdom. Upon given a higher rank, the student is now eager to seek more from his practice, even after exiting the dojo. Upon raised in status, the slave thirsts to always be in salah, even after he forcefully withdraws himself from his prayer mat. A student who has perfected the kata will demonstrate discipline and allow the essence of the kata to envelop their lives. A slave who has clipped the wings of the imaginary bird and perfected the salah will make way for the Almighty to become the eyes that they see with, the ears that they hear with, and the mouth and feet that he and she talks with. The student who has achieved the maximum rank in martial arts has achieved a heightened sense of awareness and an unbreakable bond between themselves and their sensei.
The slave who has achieved a lofty position through prayers will also have a sensitized awareness of the divine, and thus will have taken hold of the rope of Allah which shall never break. Now do you see the similarities between the kata and the salah? And what was the point of all this, one may ask? It is to humbly display that the salah is a benefit that cannot be traded for any earthly tasks, and that if one wants to be truly successful in this world, they will never negate their salah and always strive to perfect it through dedication and servitude. The salah. Thank you. Salawat Muhammad ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So I don't know if I'm pressed for time, but I do have maybe 2 more. Can I do that, sister? Can I? Not because my life almost ended, right? Not because okay, sure. Okay. I had one that I was gonna, no, I'll save that. I'm gonna be speaking to, I think, a group of ladies after this, and I have a poem specifically for you. You're supposed to say, "Ah." Okay. Actually, I'd like to read this one. You ever been called an oppressor before? Who's been called an oppressor before? I have. It's bad. You know, I've become pretty busy in my life recently, and I went back to the mosque after not having gone for a while because Fridays are very busy for me now. And the sheikh, he looked at me and he said, "Oppressor, where have you been?" You guys, somewhere along the line, you know that feeling though, right? Not being able to frequent the mosque. Okay, I'm in the holy place here, I shouldn't. But anyway, and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Sheikh, Fridays are busy, you know, it's hard for me." And it made me wonder about how I'm spending my time and how much I'm giving back to the people who are close to me and the things that really matter to me. So I wrote this poem, and it's really dedicated to my closest of friends, but maybe we can all relate to this at some point. And it's basically when life takes a hold of all your time and you find that you no longer have the time for spending company amongst good people, good friends, good family. And it's called Grenade Lemonade. Am I your brother? Or am I your oppressor? Your lover? Or some random stranger? A neighbor? Or an unwanted wayfarer? I have been so busy that I can no longer tell the difference. Lost between schemes of pyramid dreams, chasing game and glory but negating the fame of our beautiful story. But believe that I am that man that will seek remedy until knees bleed and palms plead forgiveness. He who will work harder to retrieve the medal of your honor, who will labor to restore the divine force in your core, who will speak after your tears for me could be heard no more, the one without hesitation who will write a poem to save the world and bring an end to the war. I have made it my call of duty to answer your call. Swifter than a soldier who pulls the trigger for his master with total conviction that his mission will be accomplished. And don't tell me it's impossible, because I have learned that these words cast spells over innocent eyes. Ancient citations that rise like diamond-shaped kites to shine like pitch-black diamonds in solar eclipse blue skies, possessing souls like old souls that know their time is nigh. But please, please, my brother, do not cry, because you are my gem in disguise. And my ears are closer to your heart than you think. I have not forgotten the playground memories we created in dandelion backyards of our imagination. Summers spent in prepubescent mischief and rebellion. So hand me your spoiled lemons and watch me make the sweetest lemonade. Show me your demons and I will expose the legions of mine so you may know that you are not alone. Tell me your secrets and I will whisper to you poems of triumph so that you may finally burn your burdens to the ground in silent revolution. No,
I am not your Jesus, nor am I a prophet. I am your freedom song, and you, my brother, are my redemption. Spoken through the words of a broken poet, an old friend looking for the comfort of love before the mistakes of the past and the fears of the future ever entered our consciousness. I will dig through the ashes of your soaring ego and find the words to empower your voice and ground your soul. I will ruin my newly ironed pants and dirty my freshly washed hands for one last chance to dance with you beside the lemonade stand. So hand me that old lemon, yes, that one of the back of the basket, but at the tip of your reluctant tongue I will wash it off and carry it close to my armpit like a holy scripture entrusted to my name. And though our time is no longer ripe, I will forever wait until you tell me the time is right to squeeze the fruit pulp like fresh flesh made from grenade lemonades and suck the bittersweet juice until you forgive me or I finally stop missing you. This and more I will do until I earn that trust in you. And by the grace of God, before I meet my Lord, I pray that I may once again see the I in you. Thank you. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. I think I'll finish this with one more poem. I'd like to do one for my daughters. Can I do that? Some days I remember to thank the Lord that He made me a father of 2 beautiful daughters. And some days I'm just thankful the Lord gave me the financial leeway to buy my daughter a bike. And one day, I found out that she could ride it. She rode her bike with such courage that she could be any 10-year-old boy's ride or die chick after numerous falls and countless calls of, "Daddy, don't let go." She finally let go of her insecurities and pedaled as fast as she could as if her life depended on it, and it did. Because a child's life is marked by their ability to conquer their world. Growing from a baby to a young girl, my baby girl doesn't only want to dress up in diamonds and pearls. In fact, she tries super hard to do this thing called a pirouette, which I think is some sort of ballet twirl. You see, children are driven towards a greater sense of independence. From their first stages, it is written in their biological pages to understand themselves, the surroundings, and how to manipulate their environments until they continue to gain greater ground of how the world is really at their fingertips if they only knew how to harness it, garnish it, and then proceed to varnish it so that it shines like a trinket given from an elderly relative or a locket passed down from great-grandparents' pockets. And a parent's job is to never let their child become one who is ignorant of the simple fact that life has many challenges, but with patience, persistence, love, and faith, she could go anywhere, do anything, and the expanse of earth will be her escape, so no matter where she travels, no one could call her an immigrant. And after watching my daughter blaze up and down the laneway with such determination, it only took me a few considerations to make like Beyonce Knowles and take her beyond her goals with an upgrade to a new, used bicycle with a slightly larger frame and no training wheels. And when I brought that bike home, hoping it was the right size, I walked upstairs, woke her up, took her outside and yelled, "Surprise! You should have seen the look in her eyes. She gave me the biggest missing front tooth smile about a mile wide. It's a feeling that can't be compared to none except for the time when the Urban Legends Slam Finals was done. She jumped into my arms, crying, whispered in my ear, 'Daddy, you won.' Even though she didn't know Daddy came second that night. See, the reality is I will be a father for the rest of my life. And along with my wife, we have both found profound joy in providing our children their universal rights, the rights to be loved and the right to be hugged, the right to eat sweets and the right to muddy feet, the right to play tea, but the most important of these is the right to be free. Free as the glee I see spread across your glowing face. It's a scene that I've seen from witnessing the vastness of the seas and gazing up into never-ending space. It is why I named you Hosniya, name that means youthful beauty. So that everywhere you go, your enchanting presence will remind people to be young at heart and to live with grace, a name that accentuates your inner beauty as a strong-willed woman with a heart like an oven, yet still a hijabi, a name that holds dignity, so that if ever flagrant men step to you, it will be their duty to treat you with royalty. And even though I have missed many of your creeping, crawling, walking, running, jumping days, I hope that in some small way I have made it up to you when you earned your stripes on your bike, because some days
I remember to thank the Lord that He made me a father of 2 beautiful daughters. And some days, I'm just thankful the Lord gave me the financial leeway to buy my daughter a bike, and I pray, Husniya, that you continue to live free and that no human being ever steals your shine, because my beautiful daughter, it doesn't matter who you run off with in your lifetime. The memory of you riding your first bike will always be mine. Thank you. Thank you very much. I look forward to the next session, and thank you for inviting me here. Assalamu alaikum.